Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? Good. I'm going to start by asking you some questions so that when you ask me questions later, it's fair. What I'd like you to do, and please let's be proud about it, can I please see who of you have studied something in your life, especially when you were younger? Just put your hand up nice and high for me. Up, up, anything. Okay, now no, up, thank you. Now, I only want you to put your hand down if you are not, so I'm making it complicated, doing what you did when you studied. So if you did what you were studying, keep your hand up. Still doing it today. Wish you weren't doing it anymore? Need I say more? Thank you. All right. One of the big challenges in our lives nowadays is that knowledge gets overtaken by what we can do. And what we do still needs knowledge, but the knowledge changes all the time. As Chris said, we actually don't know what we don't know, and that's actually the scary part. Our businesses rely on us to make strategic decisions, to project, to forecast, to do all of these wonderful words, and yet we really can't say we are ready for the future because we don't actually know what the future is. So we need to make sure that in order to be as ready as possible for the future, we stick to skills development. I'm a believer in the fact that if we don't rely on continuous learning, we may as well go and sit down somewhere and just die. In order for us to manage our businesses, in order for us to manage our teenagers, anything. How many of you know how to use Instagram properly? Yeah, there you go. So I'm a great believer in coaching and mentoring, but I always say you need to remember that a coach or a mentor does not have to be older than you. When you're trying to work out your new smartphone, do you really go to your grandfather? If you do, I'd love to hear from you. So I'm going to speak a little bit about work readiness, and I'm skipping through slides here. You're very welcome to get the slides as well. I'd rather talk to you. But we need to understand, and this is a word that's going around a lot, so I get tired of using words that are there, but the fourth industrial revolution is, the concept of continuous change is with us. And if we don't change, we die. If we don't grow, we die. The first millennials entered the workforce in 2004. So many of you have been to conferences like this many times, and there was this big thing about millennials and how we're going to have to get ready for millennials. Remember that? Those millennials are sitting here in this room now. Were we ready for you, by the way? Were we? Oh, there are not many here because they would have answered. So we need to understand that there's a difference between a qualification and being work ready. And unfortunately, a lot of us still believe that the way to greatness and the way to a secure future is to go and study. Sadly, the facts are not with us in that. So most of us were brought up in homes. I was the first graduate in my family, first person to go to university. And for a long time, that was then the gold standard. I went to university. I quite liked learning, so I've done a few more through the years. But what I did realize is that when I finished with my studies, I had to go into an internship. It's what I studied. So there was work-integrated learning. And about by the second minute of the first day, I realized that I was stupid. And that the world out there had nothing to do with the beautiful theories and the idealistic advantages I had learned by being able to critically solve problems and creatively think. Being able to use that, but not necessarily when I'm quoting theory anymore. Get to a point of understanding that there's more to it. Africa has a dubious statistic connected to the fact that Africa's young people are more likely to have passed through formal education systems than their predecessors. So our youth are more educated, and I'm talking Africa, than ever before. Ever before. South Africa has one of the largest budgets for education in the world. You mentioned these, so I'm going to skip some slides in terms of work readiness, and Chris's slide was better than mine. But I am going to stop with this one. This is Stats SA. This is the 2018 statistics. I just want to take a moment to have a look at what we're looking at. These are in terms of the 3 routes that people have in terms of developing skills. What I refer to as an academic route through the universities, the TVET colleges, which are the beginning routes for most people, and the private accredited providers, and the routes that they follow. And just look at the matches connected to those. Okay. This is a slide a lot of you have seen already. A lot of people have a lot of misunderstanding about SAQA. And with pleasure, this is on SAQA's website. You can go and see the slide. I prefer to just show it to you like this because it's easier to see. And there you can get an idea of which are the 3 quality councils. And the reason why I'm talking about the quality councils is because of the word quality. If we want to grow, not only in our country but everywhere in the world, what we do when we skills develop must mean something. So we can't go on courses because it's at a nice destination. When learners are complaining that the food was horrible, my response is pretty much the same as FNB's training center a few years ago. They said, that's fine, then we will no longer supply lunch. Because it isn't why you're supposed to be there. I'm going to skip a lot of these as well, but I just want to show you the arenas that we work in. Matric is very often seen as a downward spiral, and we can talk about how bad matriculants are in terms of whatever they're doing. You know what? They've always been bad. Were you great when you were finished with matric? Did you know what to do? Did you know how to do it? Did you ever think anything you learned you were going to use? So we also need to be a little less unfair sometimes. Artisans for a long time were considered what you did if you couldn't go to university or Technikon. And yet, who's riding the Mercedes-Benz? That's paid for. I'm not knocking academics. I like to study, but it's not what pays for your Mercedes, is it? And then we have the QCTO. Lots of fighting, lots of the same bureaucracy, lots of everything. My philosophy is the waves keep changing, so you just change the surfboard, because you still got to surf, okay? So stop fighting it. Pablo Picasso said, you must learn the rules like a master so that you can break them like an artist. And that's my life motto. So remember, if you go with the flow, what happens to a dead fish? You flush it down the toilet, eh? Okay. We need to look, and this is part of what the previous speaker has spoken about, so I'm going to skip some of those and just go into my favorite model, although I mess it to pieces. You all know the 70-20-10 model. Those of you who've done any kind of education, training, and development will know the model. It's used for budgeting, for training, for skills development. But what you need to remember, the core of that, is that the research shows that 70% of what you know, sitting here, you learned between others, just in time, and when you needed it. Not before and not after. So when we skill people, we have to remember that. We have to design our training plans. We have to design how we interact with our learners so that we meet that need. I want it when I want it. I want it when I need it. And then I'll learn. If you're giving me 3 books and telling me to read it, there are some learners who will learn because they are those kinds of learners. In South Africa, the linguistic intelligence type in terms of Howard Gardner's testing, 10% of us who learn by what we read, and I'm saying us, but it's not actually me, I don't learn like that either. The majority in South Africa, we learn through interpersonal relationships, through what we're saying to each other, and about what we do. So it makes a difference. So are you employable? I'm going to take you to a scary slide. There's the newest slide in terms of education. So unemployment rates, when you have less than a matric, is still the highest rate of unemployed. Okay? Matric, a little bit as well. But look at the graduates. Look how that statistic, that's a scary statistic. That means that our ideas of you go and study first, and then you go and find a job, we can't say must change, because it's too late to say that. We have to understand that the routes we took 20 years ago no longer work. And if we as the providers of those services and the providers of those employment opportunities don't understand that and stop asking for a degree. Seriously, if you want to employ someone in finance, then at least name the degree if you want the degree. But please, we need to become realistic about the fact that skills are developed on many plateaus and that what makes one person clever is not a strength of another. Please come and visit us. We are at the stand right across from the main stand, CPT, College of Production Technology. You're welcome to come and talk to us there. These are some of the routes, and I'm going to leave it at that slide, otherwise we're running out of time. So thank you very much for your time. Can I ask one more thing of you, simply just because I like to do it? It gives me a sense of power. Won't you all stand up for me, please? I want you to turn to the person standing next to you, and if there's no one standing next to you, why are you not sitting next to somebody? And just tell them today, I will learn something. Thank you very much.